for their space in Nigeria, and that may have started to die out. How do you think we can revive that level of capacity building so that skilling, education, and development within our higher institution space can be reintroduced as key for feeding manpower to the oil and gas space in Nigeria?
With my experience across the international oil and gas and the indigenous firm, it goes back to building an ecosystem within the oil and gas sector. I believe it was Dr. Akobo that when he was making his presentation that talked about, alignment with education. What that means is that you need to go back even to the primary level. Our curricula has to change to introduce Industry 4.0, principles into our curricula. Presently, in business studies in secondary schools, we're learning typewriting. How do we innovate? How can you innovate when you don't have the basic understanding? I'll give an example. During my research for my PhD, I looked at various countries. So I'll talk about China and Norway briefly. China, they became their emerging economy. At that time, they were an emerging economy. They're the foremost technologically developed country now. We're looking at them and all the things that they have been able to do. But it was a deliberate and strategic, they had a strategy. You see in Europe, in America, in the UK, you see a lot of Chinese, students. It wasn't an error. It wasn't by chance. So the Chinese government sponsored a lot of their students to those countries for technology transfer, to learn, to build their knowledge, and come back to transfer technology to the country. And for you to do that, you have to have what is called absorptive capacity. You have to have a baseline knowledge. And you cannot get the baseline knowledge if you haven't gotten it from the primary, secondary, and tertiary level. So you can't reverse engineer, you can't think innovatively if you don't have that baseline information. So we need to go back and change our curricula. There's also a disconnect between the academy and the industry. The academy is working on its own, creating their own solutions that are not applicable to the industry. There has to be a synergy. We have to have an ecosystem with the academia, with the industry, and startups. You need to develop local tools, local technology. We're looking at pushing the indigenous narrative. The NCDMB has done a lot. Presently, Renaissance has bought SPDC's stake. Seplat has bought ExxonMobil's onshore assets. They are pushing that, but in terms of capacity building, technology capacity building, there's still a lot of work to be done. We're not digitally mature. So it's an ecosystem that needs to be built for us to get there.
Right. So with what you've talked about, let me take it to local content. In terms of building capacity and integration between spaces, let me not use the wrong terminology. So let me use fintech, for example. Fintech in the financial space for integration, you see that CBN has a sandbox where tech developers can step in, build solutions around problems that exist. You see banks have sandboxes. What are we doing around creating central hubs that highlight the problems that face capacity within the oil and gas space in Nigeria from your space?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Firstly, I'm here on borrowed robes because I'm representing my Executive Secretary, Engineer Felix Omashola Ogbe, who actually sent me here to represent the organization. Well, as a board, we've done tremendous, we've gone through leaps and bounds in capacity building. I can't begin to mention them. And if I start, a lot of people will swim on me by the time I get out of here. As a board, we've done so much in terms of capacity. We've done hackathons. I thought I was going to come up with a keynote address that will set the tone for these engagements so that everyone will get to see and know what the board has done. Okay, so in terms of capacity building, yes. The 10-year strategic roadmap by the board has actually given credence to one. NOGIC JQS, that's a Nigeria Oil and Gas Industry Joint Qualification System where young Nigerian graduates are asked to go upload their biodata, their credentials and certifications, as the case may be, so that once there's an opportunity, either for direct intervention trainings or project-based trainings by the IOCs and operators, we can go to that data bank and pick names that actually qualify them for these engagements, and we latch them onto those trainings. And we've had numerous success stories in that regard. Secondly, in terms of ICT and the tech space, we are not just only a regulator, we are a regulator of choice, an enabler and accelerator of innovation as a board. We've done hackathon. I think 2 years ago, the NCDMB organized the first ever hackathon on the oil and gas industry. And part of that technology is what we're able to use to harness the gas leakage framework by Amal Technologies. NCDMB actually funded that project, and this was based on the $50 million Nigerian Content Development Research and Development Fund. I thought since yesterday I've been thinking I'd hear much about research and development, but little or nothing has been said about it.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Okay.
Yeah, we're getting there. So,
okay. So
speaking to the point you've raised about your hackathon. Now, when we want to look at that space, was that program or is that initiative in partnership with your oil and gas operators within the space? So is it directly linked to opportunities for within oil and gas companies within the space?
Pretty good question. One, that hackathon brought together lots of critical stakeholders, the academia, the tech companies, entrepreneurs, and even research and development institutions. Remember, we got an R&D agency from Abuja to come in there. It was a week-long event in Yenagoa. And so that gave credence to the 5 centers of excellence, okay, in Nigerian tertiary institutions like the Niger Delta University, because charity must, of course, start from home. And the River State University, University of Port Harcourt here is one of the centers of excellence. The Modibo University in Yola, Foots Owerri, and University of Ibadan. So they have their different niches where they have to operate in some kind of tech ecosystem, specializing in not just oil and gas operations, but attendant linkage applications. So that's why I say NCDMB as an organization is not just your everyday kind of government agency. We're very innovative, even the staff strength. A lot of us have certifications in tech courses and all of that. So we're forward thinking. You guys are talking about Web 3.0 now. NCDMB, through its Nigerian Content Consultative Forum and the ICT Sectoral Working Group, we had started the initiating the Web 3.0 in 2021. While some companies and tech hubs here are just playing catch-up, NCDMB is one organization that's going to step ahead of a lot of even private sector driven.
I noticed, sorry, I'm cutting. I noticed you threw that one back, that tech
companies no pun intended. I know, I'm telling you that.
I mean, you're government-backed, so you have that, that financial power to get into that space. So yes, good stuff. But what you've talked about with the hackathon and trying to bring a lot more organizations into the space, I'd like to jump to Ms. Igoweli of Renaissance Energy. If you play in the business space in Port Harcourt or across the Niger Delta, for example, and you interact with business owners who have relationships with the IOCs, is Renaissance an IOC now, or?
It's a small IOC.
We're the leading Africa energy company. That's
beautiful,
what I want to be.
Beautiful. So when you hear those conversations, let me come from this angle. A lot of the technology you deploy is imported because your processes have a certain calibration, which is international, right? Your valves and co. given that level of precision which has been imported, do we have a future where organizations like yours look to build local capacity to feed industry needs in your space? Because if local content is holding hackathons to support an industry, and the players in the industry are importing capacity or equipment, there's a disconnect. So please speak to us about that space.
All right, thanks. I think we're already on that journey. So it's something we're doing, a lot of that, but I'll speak to that later. I just want to start by talking about a key word in the theme for this conference. Just quickly, emergence. Because if you've paid attention in Q1 this year, you will notice that some indigenous players have come together and bought Shell's stake in SPDC. And that has brought Renaissance Africa Energy Company to bear. So that is key, is pivotal in this sector. And let me just talk briefly to our vision, then I'll come to your question. There are 4 key pillars for the vision of Renaissance, and we are really serious about this. The first one, like I said earlier, we want to be Africa's leading energy company out of Nigeria. We want to be, or maybe I should say we will be, because we are really certain we'll get there. The second leg is energy poverty. How can we solve energy poverty with the resources we have? And listening to Dr. Akubo and Dr. Kelly earlier, you can see that whole focus on solution. We really want to play in that space, because if you don't solve energy poverty, we cannot solve multidimensional poverty. If you don't have energy, you cannot be productive. The third leg, and is also linked, is industrialization. So when we do this, we will now also use those to industrialize this country. If you recall, those of us who are Port Harcourt boys and girls, some decades ago, it was very easy to pick up a job here. Not so. Yeah, in the 80s, early 90s, once you're out of school, youth corpers, they used to actually fight to come to Port Harcourt or go to Warri. So we want to bring that back to bear, just not in Rivers State, across the country. The fourth leg is sustainability. We want to do all this sustainably. Now to what you've said. I'm very happy I'm here on the panel with Dr. Akubo, GCEO, Pana Holdings, who is actually one of our partners in Nigerian content development. And I also commend Nigerian Content Development Monitoring Board. I used to be GM local content for Shell, so I understand the work they've done. So we're already on that journey, and that's what I said earlier. A lot of Nigerian companies provide services to us, and they are local solutions. Of course, some still have foreign partners, and I can give you specifics. A lot of them do. Yeah, and I know that because I was part of that story. It's something I've done. I've worked with them. There's a group called PETAN, Petroleum Technology Association of Nigeria, a group of indigenous oil and gas service providers to both upstream and downstream sectors. They've done a lot to invest in building capacity, including technology. Of course, where you need help, you need to borrow. You can go abroad and borrow, and then later, of course, you can. I mean, Pana Holdings told us what they did today. You know, with a Canadian company, and they own part of that solution. It's a Nigerian company. There's a Nigerian company that manufactures sunscreens. And that's something we started with and working with Nigerian Content Board. Today, they supply to Egypt. They even supply to outside of Africa. If the quality is right, people will buy it. So that journey is already on. And the way we look at capacity building, we look at it like it's a football team. I will not provide service to myself as Renaissance. I need service providers, the likes of pattern companies, to do that, but I need to support them. So the Nigerian Content Board provides that framework with the law and the guidelines. We provide the opportunity with the contracts and the services we provide, and then the companies go out there and score the goals. That's what the striker does. So that's the way it is.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Dara Kobo, let me come to you with this. With over 50 years of oil and gas operations within Nigeria, it's strange that we do not, or we have not seen these oil and gas companies pivot to the other verticals within the space. For example, the last speaker talked about energy poverty. With the amount of exploration across the Niger Delta, there is no complementary electricity supply with the amount of gas being produced. So we do not see these oil and gas companies step into that space to provide complementary services that will scale up or improve our numbers with respect to energy poverty. Why do you think that is so, and what do you think we can do as a country to close that gap?
Thank you, moderator. First and foremost, let me thank my brother, Dr. Igor Wele. We started as a business, resigned from General Electric, as a field service engineer, and came up, started with just one briefcase, and encountered Igor Wale. He was the GM local content in Shell, and they pulled us out there. Today, we have one of the biggest facilities for specific activities in Africa. Talking about valves, measurements specifically. And also thank local content. Of course, there's hardly anybody who will not know PE Energy. So today I go by Pana Holdings, but no PE Energy. I'm sitting down here, one of my good friends here, Dr. Ojum Cyprian, who is the GM local content of Total. So the biggest problem is things fall apart. Things fall apart. The center cannot be held. There is no memory in the country. The local content that made the pattern, the local content that made people like myself. I left General Electric in 2009, and today I have over 125 employees, Nigerians working, and over 30 foreign nationals working. That local content should be sustained. Without that sustainability, if you don't sustain it, to sidetrack it to other industries, it will be difficult. What we have is not physical infrastructure, we need intellectual infrastructure. And I'll give you an example. More than 100 years ago, Russia, as a continent, they are regarded as late industrial comers after Germany and Netherlands. But at a point, Russia realized that they were only winning guerrilla warfare, that they can conquer the Baltic region. But they came to realization that what if there is an economic sabotage on them? So let me tell you, that was where I realized that there is a cloning system. The president of Russia then in 1826 cloned himself and became a carpenter in Netherlands to learn how to build ships. He could not get the full apprenticeship. He then went back to England and learned how to build ships. Imagine that Russia is not sufficient in shipbuilding, in nuclear power, in agriculture, in everything. Now that Europe and the world decided to cut economic sanctions, where would Russia have been? They would have gone into extinction. And that is the reason why today there is what they call the global south, the global north, and say that oil and gas is not going to exist. If we don't value creation, if we don't value manufacturing, it will not be work. Manufacturing is not an accident. I have case studies how Korea was industrialized. The only way to increase the GDP of a country is through value add. It's not by export, value add. If you get a wheat, how can you turn a wheat to a bread? So the activity in the value chain is what creates economic value and financial system increase. So in conclusion, the problem about energy transition or energy mix, there must be a dedicated democratization of the use of this energy. We have political mass in some places that do not even have a political mass. But how will you know the movement of people from Bayelsa to Port Harcourt and make sure that you decentralize that activity in Bayelsa so that they can function very well? By the time you pump petrol from Dangote refinery from Lagos and bring it all the way to Bayelsa, the cost of petrol because of transportation will be high. Even if Dangote sells as a nominal value at the port in Lagos, taking the refinery. So government should be able to democratize these energy sources all over the place. And the only way you can do that is to have what is called data democratization. Know where the gas sources are, so that you don't take pipelines. The pipeline that feeds Indorama is coming from Obage. So why can't you go and put a manufacturing plant in Obage? The pipeline that feeds Indorama, this Indorama that is in Port Harcourt, that is operated by Indians, is coming from Obage. It's coming. But so the government should dedicatedly, they would have saved more money by putting the plant in Obage. Why do they not encourage Dangote to put the refinery just by the wellhead and can create peace? And the only way to create peace is what they call shared economic value. CSU does not work. CSR does not work anymore. Michael Porter has designed a system where he calls shared community value, where you make the community part owner of that system and tell them that if there is a shortage in supply of the gas to the refinery, you are also going to lose. Not give them classrooms. You give us classrooms, no teachers.
But isn't that what the PIA was designed to do?
Now, I can tell you about the PIA because I know the PIA inside out. Inside out. There is no clause in the PIA that I don't know. If I show my dashboard, you'll see every part of the PIA. The problem is that, look, when the brain is thinking about several things, there is no narrow part. There should be an orchestrated part. The PIA itself is a bullet of document. But it is like going to a party and Flavor is singing a song. People that are in that party don't even know what he's singing. It just nod their head. So we have a law that is interpreted by everybody in the way they want to interpret it. So government should now start to digitize those PIA. I can tell you, digitize those PIA in a way that there will be transparency and retention and measurement. What you cannot measure, you cannot quantify. What you cannot quantify, you cannot optimize. What you cannot optimize, you cannot grow.
Sorry, sir. To add credence, Mr. Moderator, please, to add credence to what Dr. Akobo said, it just brought my mind back to the capacity and what NCDMB has been able to do. The lady and the two gentlemen here seated by me are success stories of NCDMB. I'll start with my boss here, Dr. Igoweli. When I came into the industry as a young engineer, he was the GM, Nigerian Content Development for Shell. I've been privileged to work with him on projects like the Polaco Pipe Mill in Bielsa, and also been privileged to take Nigerians out of the shores to go train them on pipeline manufacturing. So those are aspects of capacity building, and we didn't just go to the field or classroom and do paperwork. It was on the back of...
Can I take you up on that point?
Go ahead.
Now, again, it speaks to the initial question I asked. We've taken abroad for manufacturing, right?
Yeah.
Capacity building.
Absolutely.
How much knowledge transfer was taken back to see that manufacturing started or was brought back here?
Pretty good question. Now, as an organization, you don't just get indigenous technology just offhand. That's what we call technological transfer. You go to the big players, you learn from them. Even the developed countries of the world do same. You could see, you hear about technology intelligence and all of that. Some, it's a serious offense. So we trained 24 of these pipeline manufacturing technicians and brought them back to Nigeria. Some of them are in Yulong, in Lekki industrial area where the Dangote cement is. Some have even left the country because we didn't have enough of the pipeline manufacturing companies. We tried to set up one here at Teneris. We've assisted a couple of them for pipeline threading and all of that, where you have the Prodeco facility. Is it LMA or so? Where you have the Prodeco facility, sure.
Yeah,
so a good number of them are currently working at Yulong Pipe Mill at Lekki, free trade zone.
Okay.
Yeah. So back to what I was saying before you raised the question. So Dr. Akobo, sorry, I started with my boss here. So we've been able to work on projects before he now left to be the director external relations, and now back to Renaissance. Now, what are we seeing? If Nigerian content as an organization did not have that political willpower and the framework to build capacity, there will be no Renaissance today. Renaissance bought the onshore and shallow water assets of SPDC. If we never had Nigerian content capacity building grow into leaps and bounds, we'd never have the Owandos of this world who bought AGIP and ENI. Same thing for CEPLAT. Today, CEPLAT, by next week in Lagos, they are going to celebrate their Nigerian Content Day. Okay, they've invited the board as part of their success story. They've been able to acquire assets from ExxonMobil. The lady here seated said she was in Baker Hughes. I remember I first knew Dr. Akobo when we went to commission the multimodal facility for General Electric. And he now muted to me that, look, I'm having a project in mind. And thank goodness, years later, we went to commission PE Energy. And I remember when he started, don't interrupt. So I remember when he started, I mean, he was like, he needed support everywhere. And I told my colleagues, look, we can't go anywhere. This is our own. We have to support him. Right from the inspection, the contractual circle and all of that. I can remember once he came for one of our projects, our programs rather, Practical Nigerian Content, and called me, Yoki, please, you guys do. I say, oh, guy, you don't need to beg. We'll buy you every step of the way. I'm so excited to be part of that success story, which is a personal achievement to me. And 2 weeks ago in Yanagua, we had a Nigeria Oil and Gas Opportunities Fair. You know, it's an opportunity where the big IOCs, capital IOCs, I'll differentiate them. You know, the Shells of this world, the ExxonMobils, the Chevrons, they are the capital IOCs. Now, the Renaissance, the Seplats, the Owandos are the small letter IOCs. So they are not operators, they are not service companies. So everyone had to come into that space, showcase what you have for the next 5 years, which is midterm, and let the board, mentor or direct you on the path to go. So even the contractors, the vendors who now know, there's a need in this place. So from that program, we're able to have some kind of technical needs assessment so we know what areas to go into. I could remember backstage, Dr. Welly and I were part of the conversation where we're talking about FDIs. Aside from the Total Energies FPSO. We're talking about the Bonga Southwest now, which has been lingering for so long. And Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board has been able to step into that space to ensure that the contractual circle is streamlined so that you'll be able to have more FDIs and there will be jobs available to Nigerians. And when there are jobs, believe you me, there's going to be innovation and tech will take its right of place in the oil and gas sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, so let's take 1 minute, and then we'll go to the audience because we're pressed for time.
Okay, I'll be very quick. Just to say, like I said earlier, we've brought some of these technologies home. Capacity has been built, yeah? One of the biggest issues we have is opportunities for those who have built capacity to work and create more value. And I think that should be the focus. I always tell people history is good, but history can become a problem if you don't move forward. And that's why for Renaissance, and if you check, it means new beginning. This is an indigenous, fully owned Nigerian oil and gas operating company, and we think we can actually be at the center of driving that new beginning. We can use our resources to solve energy poverty, industrialize in a sustainable way, and we're open to doing that. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, I thought you had something to say. Okay, so let's go to Q&A. I think we'll be able to take 4 questions on this one. Can someone move the microphone to the audience, please? So the lady over there, there's another lady standing over there as well. Here first. So please, your full name and then your question. Your full name, what you do, and then your question.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Cynthia Kalu. I'm a front-end web developer. I am also a postgraduate student in public health from Abia State University. So I want to ask a question regarding gas flaring. I noticed that a lot of activities that goes on with the oil and gas industry, they impact our health so much that it has caused a lot of damages to us. And the fact that there are no interventions or good health care for us to manage our health is very bad. And since we can't manage our health, what about devising a means to solve those problems that are causing those health issues? And one of the problems I've also noticed that is causing a lot of health issues like respiratory tract infections, cancer, skin diseases, and a lot of things is gas flaring. So I actually have so many questions to ask, but in the course of the discussion, the questions have been answered some, but I still have a lot. So I want to ask.
Let's take the one about gas flaring. Dr. Akobo, you want to
Yes,
take
all of
that?
them are under gas flaring.
Okay, let's take one more from that, please.
Okay. He said, with the huge amount of gas flared daily in Rivers State, what framework currently exists to help local innovators convert that waste into usable energy? Can I ask a second one?
No, ma'am, thank you. Thank you very much.
You are totally correct. The flared gas is what they call inadvertent gas. It contains what is called highly volatile reactive organic compounds. But government have put in place gas commercialization plan. Otherwise, converting the flare to energy sources. But there's a challenge. I'm also converting one in Chevron, converting flared gas into energy. The challenge is territorial challenge. And that is why we're designing a system, and I'm currently on top of that. Designing a system where we can have what is called a cluster system, because sometimes you can convert the gas, but the location of the gas that is being converted is probably very tough. So government also have penalties for companies that are flaring. If you flare, you pay this much, and there you go. So recently, NUPRC have completely commercialized those gases. But the question is that those people that have those licenses, why have they not commenced in earnest? Where is the dashboard for us to monitor them? And perhaps enabling infrastructure for them to have a common receptacle. Probably we can design a lot of mooring system around the coastal region to do it. So my sister, I think, NUPRC has taken care of that. And then they will do justice if somebody from NUPRC is here. But yes, government have taken good care of that.
Yes, sir. To further add credence to what Dr. Akobo has said, young lady, the board, through, this is a decade of gas. This decade is a decade of gas in the oil and gas industry in Nigeria. As a board, we've come up with intervention initiatives, and we have our first model gas gathering facility, which is a DuPont gas facility in Delta State, Ndokwa, somewhere around there. I've visited those two gas fields personally, and we also have another one in Edo State, which I also went to inspect. That was 2 years ago. It was about 80% near completion. But we really don't know. Maybe it's part of the bureaucracy, but DuPont is currently functioning. So we use that as a board, as a role model that these things can happen. You all agree with me that everyone had modular refinery licenses, and then nothing happened. There was no implementation. But as a board, we're able to fund Walter Smith in Imo State, just next door after Elele. And Walter Smith is refining diesel, refining petrol, and also LPG. So, gas is a cleaner energy for our environment to forestall any kind of environmental hazard. So we're playing big in that space. And we've also been able to partner with some tech companies and also entrepreneurs who will be able to develop softwares and other applications to ensure that we have a seamless, automated gas flow system. It's already in place. I wish we first had the keynote address before this engagement, so you clearly understand what NCDMB has done, that we've gone miles ahead of most of the things we're discussing.
Do you have a dashboard for the public to see all of this innovation?
Everything is in
what
the
you're
keynote
aggregating?
address, sir. That's why I insisted that we should have had the keynote address who like kind of set the tone for this engagement.
Noted.
Thank you. So in terms of gas gathering, we have a role model. Okay, we have already a model facility in Delta State and also in Edo that's yet to kick off, though the facility is still there. Thank you.
Okay, can we get the next question, please? The lady over there.
I'm new to tech. I'm not very good at it, but I'm interested in it because I recently had a professional training for crane operation and onshore and offshore rigging. And I've been looking for a place to do my internship to get intensive knowledge on tech application in these areas. So I wanted to ask, are there things put in place for someone like me to learn more?
Absolutely. There's a platform in place, and that's the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Joint Qualification System. It's a platform where you upload your biodata, and you don't need to know anyone because NCDMB is a regulator of choice, transparency at its peak. So once you lash on with your data onto that platform, there's every possibility that you have a placement, and not just a placement, we also grab a job, because after that, we'll put you on the job training for about 1.5 years, 2 years or thereabout. And once we are able to ascertain your competence, then the company has no choice, and if they don't employ you, of course, another will poach you.
Last question.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Very good question. In addition to what Nigerian Content Board are doing, we also have the Renaissance pattern internship, also supported by the board, where every year we pick young Nigerian talents like yourself, and we attach them to pattern companies. I think now it's 2 years. Yeah. And we pay a reasonable stipend for those 2 years. And by the time most of them, they are retained actually. Most of them don't leave that place, because if I can work with you for 2 years and you learn, there's no reason why I shouldn't retain you, because you don't want to go back and pick somebody else. I think the issue is that the opportunities should be more. I keep talking about more. And even when we are backstage, I say one of the problems we have, why people are complaining, is that we just need more opportunities. And to get that, you need more projects, you need more production. The more activity you generate, the more opportunities for people like you, and then the complaints will be less. Yeah, if you can touch base with me after. I'll just tell you what to do and give you a number to call so you can follow up if there's opportunity there. Thanks.
Okay, so I also like to say that you don't have to wait for the opportunities per se. This is energy tech. Over 10 years ago, I deployed various operating systems across very different countries in an international oil and gas company. In the indigenous field, we're lagging behind technologically. During COVID, IOCs were able to move seamlessly to remote operations. Indigenous firms, some of them closed down. There was financial strain on them because they don't have that technology platform. So as a young person who wants to go into tech, you can take the initiative by yourself, create solutions for indigenous firms. Sometimes while waiting for the opportunities to come to you, you can create, there's a market for it, for those technology applications for indigenous firms. So that's one of the things, that's one of the ways you can look at it. You can flip the coin and create that value for yourself.
Awesome. Okay, our last question, please.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Fortune Chiwekele. So I am asking this because Dr. Akubo mentioned democratization. And then I'd like to ask, do you think that the Petroleum Industry Act has actually provided for democratization in the light of the Host Communities Development Trust Fund? Because, companies would argue that giving you 3% of our annual expenditure and all that should be sufficient to get you invested in in oil and gas and all that. And then communities argue that they should also take part in key decisions that would go to affect the community. Decisions like divestment, which the court has recently held that it is strictly for the community. For the company. So I'd like to get clarification on that. Should we advocate for more participation by communities, or has the PIA addressed that? Thank you very much.
Ego, you want to take that? Yeah. Because I can see the smile on your face.
I want to start maybe Dari is a very smart and versatile industry operator. But let me try first. Fortune, that's the name, right? Fortune, right? Yeah, thanks. Let me just try and play back the message or the question. First of all, is PIA HCDT. And you're saying with HCDT, that's more like a platform that should ensure participation of host communities in the industry. Is that the question? Yeah.
Can we get the mic to him, please?
Yeah.
The PIA makes provisions for establishment of host communities development trust fund by settlers, that's oil companies. So I'm asking, is that sufficient for democratization in the light of what Dr. Akubu had said? Thank you.
Okay, and the straight answer is no. But that's a key step, and that's why I wanted to be, because I know there was a twist to your question. That's a key step to take us, to a higher level than we were before. HCDT is key. 3% of the operating costs of every operator for the prior year is a lot of money. As we speak, just for Renaissance alone, we have 31 host community trusts. And as at the last time I checked this week, there was about 90 billion naira in those accounts for those communities to, plan and execute their own development. But that is not enough. Yeah, that is not enough. That is just one statutory step taken just to demonstrate that, yes, you are part of this industry and we also care about your welfare. And it's actually driven by the communities. They have their people who manage that fund and decide what to do with it. But that's not all. There is community content. There is local content. There is all the CSR, which will still happen. Then there's shared prosperity, which somebody talked about. So we expect that each operator will also do more in addition to that. But that is a key step, which is much better than the voluntary social investment people used to do, which was GMOU. I hope that answers your question. Yes. On the second one, you talked about divestment and saying, why are communities not involved? Is that correct? Just want to be sure also.
Okay, I said that lately communities have argued that when companies seek to divest, the community should be a part of that decision making because this also goes to affect their environment.
Absolutely. So I got it. So one of the key things, Fortune, that investors look for, we always talk about attracting investors to Nigeria. One of the key things they look for is law and order. So, and it is the laws that will decide what will happen, right? So the laws we operate with currently has a process for making those decisions. And that's what every operator will be held accountable for, including the regulators and all that. So, and for me, I think that is what it should be. This can change. We have a National Assembly, they can decide tomorrow that, okay, we need to expand the frontier and seek more participation. That's not a problem. But if you look at the divestment, just like we discussed earlier, lots of indigenous players have gotten into that space, lots and lots of them. So many of the IOCs, like my regulator said, with the capital I, have gone, and then the ones with the small I, and you can't argue with your regulator, have come. And most of those are Nigerian entities. So that means the value will stay more in country, and that for me is a big step. And also the people understand your culture more, and then that should really help. But is there still a way for us to, improve things? Absolutely, yes. Continuous improvement for me is key, and we should keep going. But let's be lawful. What will not help is that a group of people now go and just block one facility and say, until you get me involved in doing something that the law doesn't provide, you cannot produce. Because when you do that, it affects the revenue of the country, revenue of the state, your local government. Even those working there might be laid off, and even the contractors there will not get opportunity. I don't think that's what we want. Thank you.